in the shot.
Yeah, you were.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Oh, yeah. We can do this.
Here we go.
He just stopped. All right, here we go.
There's always a little... You did not just clap after I clapped. Oh, my gosh. I understand Adam's pain. He's a dick. It's all right. Here we go. Did you just... Okay, Thanos over here. What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Spoken, the Geekiverse is all the Mandalorian podcast. With me today, Thomas Colbert.
Hello.
The Bud Lime. Is it, no, Blue Lime.
No,
Sorry.
it's blue. Don't
That was
insult
rude.
me.
To my right, Jamie Leroy. No relation.
Nope, not at all.
I'm Josiah Leroy. So we are talking about Disney Plus's The Mandalorian, specifically Chapter 3, The Sin. So if you have not seen Chapter 3, we're going to talk about a lot of spoilers here. So bookmark this, come back and listen or watch afterwards. But we're going to get into just a little bit of analysis on the episode here, a little bit of the community tied to the Geekiverse, and just get overall reactions. So that being said, first off, what do we think of Chapter 3 here? We're almost halfway through the season. That's a little depressing.
It's very depressing.
Oh, wow, yeah. The episodes are so short that you don't expect to be halfway done after like an hour and a half.
They go very fast. We've talked about this. I've been of the mindset, and you said, Brian said online, that we'd rather have a shorter runtime but a higher quality.
Yes.
As opposed to maybe getting a Netflix show that's going to be 45 to 53 minutes, anywhere in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I'm definitely of that mind. Tom, what do we think of the episode so far? Episode 3 in particular.
I liked it. It's had a slightly different feel to it. I mean, it still had the overall, theme going on there, but it was, I don't know.
Each episode has been distinct to me. Yes,
absolutely.
So first one, we get our intro kind of into this world, 5 years after the fall of the Empire, after Return of the Jedi, what's going on, kind of a lawless period, if you will. Episode 2, we get a little bit of the journey. We've got the asset, we've got Baby Yoda in hand, and now we're kind of fighting through the world. Which that sequence on the Sandcrawler, again, absolutely loved it.
Yes.
Now we are in episode 3, and we got a little bit more of a Western vibe. And as we've seen, or as Tom has seen online, people comparing it to John Wick. 100%.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that. I'm a big John Wick fan, so when I saw that correlation, I was all over it.
Not to be confused with the Geekiverse's John Fick, noted prequel hater.
No, they're the same person.
We don't know that.
I thought they were the
He
same
did threaten
person.
Lindy the other day. Thought it was weird. Very out of character.
That's so rude.
Yes, very.
But he did not threaten my dog. We are talking again, if you're just joining the Mandalorian from Disney Plus, Chapter 3 here. So I really enjoyed this episode. This one clocked in about 37 minutes or so. A few things to note. We got more flashback sequences that kind of paint the picture of why, or I guess it gives us a little more insight into where the Mando is from.
Yeah, so between the last, or I guess it'll be the first episode and then this episode, each time the armorer is forging and building upon his armor with the Beskar steel, he's having these flashbacks to himself about what we can assume is him as a child and his parents and his planet being attacked by what we can now tell should be the Separatists, because we saw a super battle droid today in the episode.
Had we seen that previously or no?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I didn't think so. I
Just
thought
explosions.
that was really cool.
So
That was also the best looking super battle droid I've ever seen.
it looked good.
It was a little bit more polished than what we had seen in episodes 2 and 3 for Star Wars. But we get a glimpse of maybe the time period, and that can kind of put an age approximation on how old the Mando is. Because if we do the math, we have Star Wars Episode 3 is about 20 years before A New Hope. And the end of the Clone Wars would have been just around that time. And I'm sure there would have been pockets and skirmishes here and there. And then Return of the Jedi is a few years after A New Hope. And the Mandalorian series takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. All in all, anywhere from probably 30 to 35 years old, we could assume.
Yes.
So maybe the Clone Wars are a big result of why he's on his own or why he is who he is. So we get more Baby Yoda here early on in the episode. First of all, today we learned that we're getting Baby Yoda merchandise in time for Christmas, which is great.
Yep.
So you guys know what to get me. One of you get me a Pop Funko, and one get me just a stuffed animal. Or Daisy, a stuffed animal.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Sure.
That's what I meant.
To Daisy.
To Daisy.
I could definitely have one of those pop vinyls.
So Baby Yoda, or as Tom calls it, has anointed it a yadling.
Yodling.
Yadling. Sorry.
You still messed it up.
Godling.
Yodeling.
I did not mess it up. Get out of town.
You said like yodel.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay. We'll play
Get
back
out
the
of
tape.
town.
Play back the tapes.
I'll play back the tapes. I don't have time to rewind it. I'm thinking about Knives Out with the tape.
with the
We saw
tape.
Knives Out tonight.
Yeah, we saw Knives Out. It was really good.
It was so
I
good.
enjoyed it.
Not as good as Ryan Johnson's last movie. The internet would agree with me for sure, but still
Most
pretty
of them
good.
would, yeah.
So Baby Yoda, let's talk about it. Jamie,
Oh my gosh, he's so cute. You can't get past it.
so what happens in this episode with Baby Yoda?
Oh, well, first of all, Mando takes him back to whoever was trying to get him initially. Whoever sent out the...
We discussed in the last episode that
Who is
we can assume he is an Imperial officer. And that the other guy is associated somehow with the cloners on Camino because,
Yes.
thanks to the wonderful internet, someone spotted...
damn good ones too.
Someone spotted, was it a badge or like a...
Yeah, an
something
insignia on the
which-
shoulder, I believe.
Which
it
I
was.
missed. I didn't see in this episode either, but...
Was
I didn't know that was a thing, and I feel like for a lot of Star Wars lore, I would have recognized that, but I had no idea
I missed
that
it
there
too.
was kind of a patch or a logo associated with the Kaminoans,
Yes. So the Empire is after this yodeling.
or the
Yes.
remnants
The
of the
child.
Empire, maybe the Empire that's not given up here.
Yes.
Yeah, so he is sold for a bounty. He is...
But before that, we get some interaction in the ship between Mando
yes.
and
Oh my gosh, it's so cute. They have a relationship. It's so adorable.
yeah, they do.
It's like it's like a big brother, little brother, or like a father son kind of thing. It's so cute. And he, the Baby Yoda creature, he unscrews the top of like the ball of one of the shifter things in the ship.
Lever.
Oh man, just to
Would
play
you
with
guys
it.
have
That is
ever-
not a toy.
Ever like anticipated that that's where, like we didn't know at all that a Baby Yoda was coming,
Right.
let alone that we'd see this kind of relationship.
Right.
I can't tell you how much I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's just
Well, because when you pictured the Mandalorian, did you think like it's going to be about
No.
this guy who finds this adorable creature
and has a soft spot. So
Oh, man.
a lot of people I've seen on the internet, mostly Star Wars haters, again, mostly, have said that The Mandalorian is more fundamentally and more feels like Star Wars than anything Disney has released so far. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
I can agree.
I've got an opinion.
I guess I could say I would agree with it.
But you like what Disney has done so far, for the most part.
For the most part, yes. I mean, compared to everything that's being done, I mean, in all honesty, I'm a fan of the new movies, but I mean, I like a lot of the side stories that are happening as well. That being with like Rebels and Resistance and things that they have taken over.
And like Force Awakens and Rogue One and Solo and all that.
Yeah, I enjoyed Solo. I enjoyed Rogue One, and I guess I could just say with this is I like the feel of this so much, of like the tone of like it's not set like for adults or just for kids. It's that nice medium of like it doesn't have to be like too violent or gory to be enjoyable.
It is rated PG.
Yes.
Which is a point I've had for a long time because I'm not a Game of Thrones fan,
Yeah.
and pretty much for the reason of how gory and how inappropriate, I guess, if you will, it kind of is.
But it's not childish either. This show. I mean,
Right, right.
It's Star Wars. That's
Yeah.
the best way I can put it. So
Do you think this is more fundamentally Star Wars, or would you? Again, I think most people that have been saying this dislike what Disney's done with Force Awakens, Last Jedi, etc. I think it's a
it's-
totally different flavor,
It is. That's for sure.
but I wouldn't say it's more Star Wars.
I don't think so either. I think it's kind of on par. Like I obviously I love everything that Disney has come out with.
And a lot of people
in Star
don't.
Wars realm. Yeah, no, but I do.
I do for sure.
Yeah.
Force Awakens is up there with Empire for me.
Exactly.
So with Baby Yoda, where you were talking before, we get to the exchange. He sells it for the load of Beskar.
Oh yeah.
Like-
So
Invaluable, almost.
he asks what they're going to do with it, which is completely beyond the code. You're not supposed to do that. And they don't tell him, so that's nice. But he's kind of freaking out on the inside about it. But he leaves anyway with his bounty.
So one of the comments from the group we're about to mention on Facebook kind of had mentioned that they didn't think that the Mando was going to give up Baby Yoda. They thought there was going to be maybe a gunfight at that point.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. That's where it felt like it was going.
Yeah, it kind of felt like there would be. There was a lot of tension, but he just left.
But he moves on.
Yeah.
Goes back to Grief Cargo.
Grief Cargo.
And if you guys notice, he wants his next job.
Mm-hmm.
He's shaken, right?
Yeah.
He wants to forget. He wants to get to his next job. We get some funny exchanges from Grief Karga on Twi'lek.
The Twi'lek bathhouses.
Houses.
My.
Healing bath. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Healing
yeah.
bath.
So
Twi'lek
some
healing bath.
some Twi'lek prostitution going on there.
A couple of drug references.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
talks about spice.
Go do some spice and you'll forget all about it.
Waiting for them to bring up Kessel. I think that would be great.
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. The Mandalorian's new armor as well.
Oh,
Very Jango
yes.
Fett-like, right?
Oh, so shiny.
Very chromy.
Very chromy. Google Chrome over there, right?
Little chromy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big fan of that. Let's talk about. So we see more stormtroopers. I love seeing stormtroopers in these new age movies or new age Star Wars movies / shows where it's not the First Order stormtroopers. It's the Empires or the remnants of the Empire stormtroopers. They look beat. They look sandy. They look kind of dirty. Like this equipment's been there forever. They're holding on to something that's not there anymore. We see quite the skirmish. Where am I going with this? I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to take first here. Why don't we jump into seeing all the Mandalorians in action together? That was kind of cool. This is not something we've seen outside of the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels.
So we're definitely skipping around a little bit here.
Yeah.
Which is fine. We're just spitballing here. But basically, towards the end of the episode, we see our Mandalorian pinned down with the baby Yoda creature, the child.
Yadling.
The Yadling.
Yes.
It's becoming official.
Yadling.
And which I was hoping for the whole time, but my timing was off. As he's pinned down and surrounded by the guild and the other bounty hunters, we see the other Mandalorians come out and help him out, and this big shootout begins, and they all have unique weapons and blasters and flamethrowers and jetpacks, and it's a very cool scene, very Clone Wars feel of those battle scenes. And even with the Clone Wars animated series, very similar to how like the clone troopers were fighting. It was almost nostalgic watching that for me, but
It was cool to see it in live action.
yeah, absolutely, and everything looked great. I mean, it wasn't blurry or like shoddy scenes. It was
So we also, early on, speaking of our Mandalorians, get kind of an intense exchange with the Mando and one of his fellow.
heavy gunner they called him or something.
Yeah, I think that was at least for the
According to your
subtitles. He gets into a little bit of an exchange there.
A scuffle.
Gets
even.
into an altercation. That is definitely the voice of Jon Favreau. So with Jon Favreau, he's producing and writing the series. He is the guy behind the original Iron Man movies. We see some kind of Iron Man callbacks, I think. First of all, we see how almost the armor is being upgraded. You said it looks like a video game.
Yeah, it had that feel of, every episode we're seeing our character grow and he's getting like new equipment and, and we're learning more about his background. And it felt very like if they made this video game, I would feel like I was playing it right now. I hope they don't because I already know what's going on, so don't ruin this for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had that nice feeling of like I get excited seeing him level up, per se.
Yeah, that's absolutely what it
Yeah.
was. So we saw that, and then we also saw he gets kind of forged this special weapon. How do they refer to that weapon? It was
Whistling birds.
whistling birds. So he pulls that out towards the end of the episode as he's surrounded by stormtroopers. 4 of them notably, which in the first episode he says he likes those odds, right? When there's
yeah.
4 stormtroopers versus him. And he gets them to get to a standstill, puts the asset down, and then he fires them off and they're homing. And that reminded me very much of what we saw in the early MCU, whether it was Iron Man 1 or Iron Man 2.
Difference too between the first episode and this episode, because he still likes the odds, but in this episode he had the child with him, so he kind of had to tackle it a little differently versus guns
Couldn't
blazing,
risk
rolling
being
around,
hit.
taking some shots. So
Yeah.
it was interesting to see him, choose to, hey, I'm protecting this package. This is my goal now. I morally chose to take this path.
From an emotional standpoint, are we seeing the connection here between how he was kind of left by his parents to be protected there and stuffed into that shelter, and why he maybe wants this baby Yoda?
Yeah, it feels like he wants to protect it, just like his parents protected him, but he feels that he has to be there to protect it, as opposed to his parents who like shut him into a cupboard like Jin or so.
And then probably got destroyed.
Well, he's
Right.
What were they calling the children? Not
Foundlings?
foundlings. I wanted to say abandonlings. That just sounds terrible. The
Jerk.
Synonym.
Or
abandonment.
the orphanlings?
So he's a
Tom over here.
My mind works in weird ways. He's a foundling, and he's very about this Mandalorian cultural environment of helping those in need, and especially with these orphans, basically, of taking them in and raising them.
Mm-hmm.
Which just crossed my mind of just a Yoda Mandalorian, which is a really cool, really cool thought for me.
Yodelorian.
The ears would go
Yeah.
out like the helmet side,
It
for
would just
sure.
stick out, just-
Be like that.
Joke's on you, one of the Mandalorians is a Yoda creature, and its ears are in the helmet.
There was definitely a Zabrak in
You
this
never
episode,
take
by
off
the way.
your helmet.
Never. So Zabrak is what Darth Maul is. That was one of the people that was firing.
I don't think I saw.
Yeah.
I completely lost my train of thought with that Yoda Mandalorian thing. We were talking
I
about
don't-
before that.
No.
Moving forward,
So let's get into some of the comments from Facebook regarding tonight's episode. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. You could be listening on iTunes or SoundCloud or watching on YouTube. Hopefully. We tried with last episode. We had some technical difficulties. So look at that. The first one. I'm not even making that up. What's his name? What's his name? Thom. So
It's Tom.
it's Tom.
no, it says Thom.
It's spelled Thom,
So
but it's Tom.
he says the final battle was amazing. Any idea if Sabine will show up or be mentioned? How great would that be? So we're talking about Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels, one of my favorite Rebels characters.
So I love the idea of it, but
What if she's Gina Carano?
Well, me personally, it's just that thing of seeing animated characters show up into live action.
Like Saw Gerrera, Clone Wars,
yeah.
and then they build him into Rogue One.
So it's just that, but that was done in like there's a way that they could do this if they tie Sabine in, and it works out great, fine. But I mean, it could be something as simple as a casting error just to ruin that character for me. So I guess I trust them to do it if they're going to do it. But there's so much culture involved with the Mandalorians.
And we're finding that out
Bring it on.
with culture to the Mandalorians. Kind of even just this is the way,
This
right?
is the way.
They've all got this code and they seem to honor it.
Yeah.
Joe also says the flashbacks of him as a kid and the battle droids attacking. Where did they come from? Because this takes place way after the prequels, so we see that as a flashback sequence, right?
Yes.
So that's what we can assume. Let's see, Kevin Rabiner. Oh, hey Kev, what's up, man? So Kev, you'll see him at Nickel City Con, typically dressed up in some sort of Star Wars attire. He had that little mouse droid remote,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
remember.
I do.
He basically made that from scratch, which was awesome.
Very cool.
So Kevin said it was a great episode. I wasn't really expecting him to turn over Baby Yoda. Same sentiment here. I thought he might take the Beskar and fight his way out, but his way may have worked better since he had better armor during the caper. Very true.
That's true. They didn't even realize they were equipping him to come back and take the baby.
Yeah,
That really worked out for him.
right? Yeah.
Going back to Joe's comment there about the battle droids that we saw attacking his planet or his town, that's an interesting thought just to kind of think about like why is this happening? Like was this a separatist attack, or is there the Empire kind of using up the extra resources they have, or did someone else happen to get a hold of battle droids and reprogram them? I mean,
It's very possible.
This could be the setup for some villain that we're not expecting yet. So that's a very
We do see activated battle droids in Rebels,
Yes.
which takes place 5 years or less before A New Hope. So years after the Clone Wars, 15 years after the Clone Wars, we do see battle droids in action. They don't necessarily have to represent the Separatists because you can buy them, right? Brian Patrick Stoyle, a good friend of the Geekiverse, he said, thoughts in no particular order. He loved the Western shootout tropes in the final battle. Grief surviving from the money. Armor piece in his pocket was a great touch. Makes you wonder if the Mandalorian aimed there on purpose. I never considered that.
He did know it was there. That's an interesting thought.
He did know it was there.
Yeah.
That's a great point
He showed
because
him.
he shows him that he's rich right in the middle of the episode. A callback for us to Rush Hour 2 with Chris Tucker. Thank you, Benjamin. Brian says jetpacks. Yes, that was really cool. As I mentioned during the episode that we were all watching tonight together as a group. Hope there's no Sarlacc picks around because that would be awkward.
He foreshadows that too when he says when he's flying away at the end. He goes, "I got to get me one of those."
Yes, he does.
Reference along those lines. So we'll see.
How many Mando characters can Jon Favreau voice? Not enough, says Brian. Let's see here. He also says, I appreciate how the Mandalorian is always willing to donate some of his Beskar to foundlings. He probably could have gotten a new right thigh plate instead, but decided to pay it forward. Right, this guy's got a heart.
Yeah.
Despite having this code and being a part of not just this Bounty Hunters Guild, but also the Mandalorians. But yet he still has this kind of soft spot for doing the right thing, it seems like.
I think he's got a soft spot for the foundlings in particular, too.
Because that's what he was,
Right.
Let's see. Deborah Chow delivered the goods in both drama and action. Kudos to Star Wars' first female live-action director. The Kenobi series is in great hands.
Ooh.
So if you didn't know, earlier this week it was announced that Deborah Chow would be in charge of Kenobi.
Wow.
So we're going to see, and she directed tonight's episode.
That's great.
I certainly hope to hear Wilro Hood cosplayers adding Beskar, Beskar, Beskar in with their ice cream chants at conventions. Baby Yoda learned a bad lesson from the Jawas in trying to steal objects from the Razor Crest. Very true. So long as there are alternate ways to claim a signer aside from slaying, I'm betting Yoda's species becomes Mandalorian's signet. Oh.
That is a good point, too.
So we've got that epic logo that we've had forever, right? Can you imagine if something happens to Baby Yoda, or maybe even just his inspiration leads to that? That would be exciting to me. Really
Yes.
exciting.
It'd be a lot less intimidating, I think, though.
But it means more.
Yeah.
Okay, Thom.
Maybe,
I can have opinions.
It could just be his signet in particular, right?
Yeah.
It could be.
Not the whole Mandalorian group's sign, but
Does he
just
have one
his.
currently?
No.
Did they? Because he was
refused-
going to have one, but he
refused one.
okay.
They almost gave him the bighorn or mudhorn.
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 Yes, but it was not a noble kill,
Yes.
so he refused it.
Dirt horn.
They
Big-
almost gave
big
him.
large
They almost
horn.
gave him Bighorn.
Longhorn Steakhouse. Yes.
Oh, I could go for some of that right now.
Yes, me too.
Wow. See what time they're open till.
Okay.
They're closed.
Research and buttons is on it.
What? Okay. Just Jim and I will go.
Yeah, bye.
They're
So
closed.
they are not closed on a Friday night, you son of a gun. What are you looking at?
The time. They're
Time.
closed. Continue.
Any wrapping thoughts or any takeaways before we end this episode of We Have Spoken?
Well, I can't rap, but they really
You said you would freestyle, and you know it.
maybe.
Going back on your promise, I see.
Sometimes you have to.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Well, we left the episode off on a really open note. I mean, he is now wanted by.
Did you say it was like a C or a D minor?
Oh my goodness. No,
thought my joke was
this is
bad.
where the John Wick thing.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
This is where the John Wick
Oh.
reference came in
Yeah.
because as soon as he stole the child, every bounty hunter's like beeper thing went off exactly like it did in John Wick as soon as he was wanted.
That's got to be a video on Instagram already, right? Like a
Probably.
side by side.
It must be.
I'm sure it happened. But anyway,
It felt the same.
so the Mandalorian has the child, and he is flying off into space, and now he is wanted by whatever scraps are left of the Empire.
Where's he gonna go?
And this bounty hunters guild, and his only allies right now are his Mandalorians, who are staying behind on whatever planet that was.
He's probably
Forget.
also wanted by anyone who still wants the Yoda creature.
Hopefully another IG-11.
Yeah, I need more Taika Waititi.
Very short-lived.
Taika's directing an episode. I don't remember which one it's going to be, but he's in charge of that one. But I need more IG. Insert number here.
11, 88, 66.
Any IG that's
33?
voiced by
44.
Taika. Are we just saying numbers now, or do we have any?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. So, Jim, any wrapping thoughts as we look back on this episode and look ahead to next week? My gosh, I
Yes.
got to go watch this again.
Yeah. Definitely. So when the Mandalorian went back to kidnap the child, he
Morally.
caught him morally. He caught him in the process of what looked like he was being cloned. So that's interesting.
We assume.
How far did
Or
that?
we assume they were gathering DNA, right?
How far did that process get? Do you think they're going to be able to do anything with that,
Oh, how about the
or is there anyone left? He left that man alive
that
too.
Imperial torture droid there,
Yeah.
right? So call back to
Oh,
kind of a
yeah.
New Hope.
Well, they referenced when he was kind of spying on the two main guys that they had to remove the substance or the source. He made some kind of reference to that. So it could be anything from blood to midichlorians to
Right.
an actual organ. Like, we don't know what DNA, like you just mentioned. I mean, so it's still, we don't know what the heck they were doing.
And the Imperial guy, like, so we see him talking to the doctor through like these heat vision kind of almost goggles.
Yeah, thermal scope or something.
That's really cool. We see that a lot in video games.
Yeah.
That at some point was a part of the Bounty Hunter video game.
Whatever his weapon is, it's so multifunctional.
So
Awesome.
seeing this is where I wanted to go earlier. When he's playing a little bit of covert ops with the stormtroopers.
Yes.
He really gets them in a bunch of different ways, and one that looked really cool was kind of how he electrocuted the one.
Oh, yeah, that was so cool.
He knifes the one.
Yeah.
He pulls them to him and knifes them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he did like a whole, like he shot him.
That's a
tethered
Kylo Ren
him
move.
Back. Yeah.
And
Stormtroopers are just so incompetent.
this armor's useless.
Or they're outmatched. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
And there was it's
They're
because
not
they can't
trained
see.
well.
It's because they don't have the first order tiers. That's why.
Sometimes they hit their heads on things.
This is where the eye. It's like if their helmets were like this. Right, guys.
the eye holes are just too high.
Why would their eye holes be above their heads?
Good job, Jim. Oh, because
Oh, I see what you're
that's
going.
that's
Okay.
what
Yes.
he's saying. Yep.
Gotcha. I still saw
That's
your
how
eyes,
Storm-
so I was confused.
that's how stormtrooper helmets are. Imperial stormtrooper helmets. The first order ones correct that. And then so we got to the way he knifed the one guy, he electrocuted the one guy, and then he like burned the guy, the one, right? He like melted
did,
everything.
He did torch
yeah.
a guy, yep.
Yes. With his torch fire thing.
So
Flamethrower.
We've seen more than enough evidence that the Mandalorian is not to be messed with in so many
Oh.
different aspects.
Yes.
Oh, and he can also just like disintegrate people. Which is
With
cool.
that one particular rifle that he has.
That's true.
And we had a lot of that tonight.
And in the previous episode when
With
he
the
killed
Jawas.
like 4
Oh.
Jawas and
I mean, that's like a Star Wars Battlefront almost Easter egg, you would think. Like, that's like an extra where it feels like a cheat code almost.
yeah.
It's really funny to see that and then see the callback to Darth Vader's line, "No disintegrations," to Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back. I love it. They
it's
they tie
ridiculous, that
everything in.
weapon.
Everything. Oh my gosh.
So if Jon Favreau, as is rumored, would take over the Star Wars franchise as a whole in 2022 and be the Kevin Feige of Star Wars, what would you guys say? Would you say sign me up, or you're happy the way it is under Kathleen Kennedy?
There's something about having these multiple visions and directors on these projects that I think does keep it fresh. I mean, I think that if he did happen to take over, we would get some great projects. But I think as Star Wars fans, the majority of us like to be challenged. And I mean, I got to say, we like to complain about stuff. So,
Especially Star Trek fans who watch Star Wars stuff. Like, my gosh.
is that someone in particular you're talking to?
A lot of people I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do that more another time. But I think I would be okay with it, but I like these directors coming in and doing different projects and me seeing different things. And I don't have to like everything. I'm not going to like everything. But the more people that we see doing these things, I mean, I'm good with it.
I mean, I kind of feel like that's how it is with the MCU, though, right? Like, you get different directors and producers. It's all overseen by Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
But
It gives you a different flavor of everything. So if you, in
worked so
particular,
well.
love comedies, then Thor Ragnarok is your movie. But, like, if you like more serious things, another movie might be better for you.
But I would trust his judgment then to, like, turn down projects that aren't working for this kind of modern day vision of Star Wars. So
It seems like he knows Star Wars pretty well with
Yeah.
what we've seen here in just 3 episodes. So,
he seems pretty cool overall.
Yeah.
dude, it's watching The Chef,
Yeah, I watched that too.
like, he's a guy I want to hang out with so bad.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Come to Buffalo.
Ser-
Come to Buffalo.
Tweet us, John. That'd be great.
We'll talk.
Tweet us, John.
He did. He was really a big part in laying down that groundwork for the MCU. He's doing it nicely here with the live action version of Star Wars that we've seen so far. We've got 5 more episodes for Mandalorian season 1, and then we've got season 2 that's in production.
Thank goodness.
That's good.
So it's going to happen. It's going to keep going here. And we've got the Clone Wars in February. We've got Kenobi and a Cassian and K2 series as well. So
Nice.
future is bright for Star Wars here. Rumor has it there's a Darth Maul series in the works as well. I know.
I didn't
That'll
know
be a
that.
gift right there. Oh yeah, it's a rumor. It's a rumor. It's been a long time rumor, but guess what? So is Kenobi.
Yeah, right? I'd do it if they asked me.
Did we get to your final thoughts on this, or did we
Some
interrupt
of them,
you?
Some of them.
Okay.
I only had one left. My last final thought, my final thought is the final scene when the Mandalorian is speeding away with the Yoda creature and he's reaching for the ball on the shifter and he gives it to him. It's just so cute. I love their little relationship.
They've managed to make this tough, badass Mandalorian from the Wild Wild West. It's kind of softy. That works
Yeah.
without compromising any of that toughness.
Right.
One of the things that ball reminds me of is in Revenge of the Sith when Anakin picks up those 2 marbles and he like spins them with the Force. I'm really waiting for the. You remember that part?
No.
It's right in the beginning. He's talking to Padme. He's being super whiny about everything, and Kenobi not trusting him. And he's in her room talking to her.
Attack of the Clones? Did you
No,
mean?
this is.
It's got to be.
Are you sure? Maybe
think.
it is.
I think it is. I think the one
Yes,
you're referencing,
I'm sorry.
right?
You're
Okay.
right. It is Attack
Okay.
of the Clones because
I do
that's more
remember
where
it.
they actually like fall for each other, officially.
Yes.
Yes, but he picks like the 2 marbles up and he's spinning them in his hands, and I'm just picturing this Yodling doing the same thing with this marble, just like having it float in its hand and just kind of showing that its Force power is off. So we'll see if that happens. But
That was my favorite part in episode 2 that wasn't the Sandcrawler sequence as a whole, was that Baby Yoda using the Force on that beast. It was so epic. Oh my goodness. I get goosebumps even thinking about it.
and I think that's what sparked his initial, compassion for this creature, being like, "Hey, this is a living being, and it's not only is this thing alive, but it saved me."
Yeah.
And,
For sure.
It's not just another
Yes,
bounty.
He refers to him later as an enemy that didn't know he was an enemy.
Yeah.
He was prey.
Right.
That's what he referred
But,
to him as,
then
but-
he went and rescued him, so he's not an enemy anymore.
So there's, I've talked about extensively on our various shows how much I like this release format because it keeps you wanting more. It keeps you excited. It gives you all this time to make sure you're on schedule. You don't have to worry about spoilers for the most part.
Doesn't feel like a huge commitment because it's only like a half
Totally.
hour a week.
How exciting is it knowing, Fridays are great in general, but looking forward to next Friday thinking what's the next episode going to be like?
And it's only a half hour of your day.
Exactly. And we get to talk about it one at a time and kind of have fun with it. That being said, I can't wait to, once these are all released, watch them all at once.
Yep.
That's going to be a rare binge for me because I don't typically do that.
Yeah. If they could release them too without like the endings and just kind of like do a smooth transition, I'm sure it'll come out online eventually. But
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that'll be a Disney Plus
Yeah.
update too.
That'd
where
be
you
fantastic.
just jump into the next
Watch
episode.
all the
just,
episodes,
just
yeah.
3.5 to 5 hours of the Mandalorian.
Sign me up. No doubt about it.
Yep.
So if you've enjoyed We have spoken. We've got a lot of Disney Plus / Star Wars content going on. Currently, we're in the middle of a mini-series called Hindsight, a Star Wars series, which you can listen to on iTunes and SoundCloud or watch at youtube.com/the Geekiverse. So myself, along with John Fick and Seth Zielinski, are unwrapping every single Star Wars film, going through our reactions, how it's going to tie into Rise of Skywalker, etc., etc. You can enjoy that right now. Also, a monthly show called Pluscast, podcast based on Disney Plus. We won't get as in-depth on The Mandalorian, but we'll get you up to speed on all of the latest news for Disney's new streaming service in Disney Plus. We will be back next week for We Have Spoken. For Jamie, for Thom, I'm Josiah. We just have one last thing to say.
We have spoken.
That is the way.
That is the way.
This is the way.